Hey guys, I'm Fancy.
And I'm Stella. Good evening, everyone.
And this is Murder by Design. So, hey friends, welcome back to our channel. Tonight is our first full episode, good Lord, in the saga of Conrad Roy and Michelle Carter. My phone is going off, so let me just turn it down real quick. I forgot to do so. Okay, there we go.
First thing I did.
So last week we gave you just the deets of the case, but tonight we're going to dive in just a bit further. So as always with any true crime content, there is a great possibility that it's not going to be monetized, so it'll probably get demonetized. And it sucks, but it is what it is. So when you actually talk details of the case, the powers that be get squeamish. So here's how you can help all of us to keep bringing you killer content. First off, make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell if you are joining us on YouTube so you don't miss any of these. And if you'd really like to go above and beyond, we hope you give us a share. Second, we do have a few ways that you can contribute to what we do here. So you can always send us a super chat or a super sticker, and you'll get a shout out right here this very second that you send it. Or you can always join our Patreon membership platform, which has several levels that get you some pretty epic perks. Or you can head over to our own website, madgingerentertainment.com, where you'll find tons of free content, our members-only yearly club, which saves you just a little bit from Patreon. And then you can always, and which saves you just a bit, and you can also find our store. And let me tell you, you're going to want to check back out what we are going to be bringing to the store right now. We have some brand new killer designs coming out this next month, so we are super excited about it. We just partnered with Dice Decals to bring so many new cool things. I am beyond excited. So you guys are going to keep checking those out. And all of our links are in the description below, guys. So over on YouTube, and Christina will be popping them into the chat here for us, and I'll put them up for you guys to see over here on Facebook. So anyway, though, thank you. And with no further ado, here's episode 1 of The Fatal Love of Conrad Roy and Michelle Carter.
Well, as we explained to you last week, how these two came to be, they met while vacationing with their families in Florida. And they started this crazy relationship when they only lived 35 miles away from each other. They only saw each other a handful of times.
Yeah.
And it was more of a obsessive texting, Facebook. Yes. And however else, but very few times were they together or actually went out on a date, physically held hands, kissed, etc. There was really none of that in 2 years.
I just find that so weird still that these teenagers live so close and never saw each other. And he's such a good looking guy. I just can't imagine why this is what he was doing. Like, I don't know. He was a really cute kid. Like, I mean, she's pretty, don't get me wrong, but she's, if you look at her, I just don't see, it's like the lights are on, but nobody's home, I mean, but where this all ended and started basically was on July 12th, 2014. 18-year-old Conrad Roy drove to a deserted Kmart parking lot in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, with a gasoline-operate water pump sitting on the back seat of his truck. And he rolled the windows up in the vehicle, switched on the water pump, and let the carbon monoxide fumes fill the air.
He struggled to breathe for more than 40 minutes. This is double the time it takes for fatal carbon monoxide poisoning that would have come if he just ran a hose from the exhaust into the car. Right. So this was double the anguish. And I can't imagine I know what he was going through because he spoke about it to her while he was in the process of doing this. So this was just a terrible ordeal. His body was found the next day on July 13th, 2014.
Yeah. And you know what? There was a movie back when I was, I think in high school, that there was a movie about a girl and a boy who did kind of similar to this. They did it in their car, and they basically filled up their garage and passed away that way, and that's very common. But they both did it together. It wasn't like this situation where, she's basically convincing him he should go ahead and do it, But he even gets out at one point in time during this period of time, and she literally tells him to get back in the car, back in the truck,
Yes,
and
she
finish
did.
it.
She
It's
said,
just,
Don't be scared. Just do it. Just do it." And he
just do
was
it.
more worried about what his family. He was worried about his mother and his sisters. And that to me, and he said that to her. What about my mother?
Yeah,
How I don't want them to think it was because of them. It's just because of my life. It's my mental
yeah,
anguish. It's everything I'm going through. I'm not good for this world. I'm not good for this earth. And she
right,
was like, "No, you're right, because to live the way you're living isn't good, and you might as well just end it right
mhm,
now. So why don't you just do that?" That's
right.
horrible, girl.
She's awful. It's just awful. I just, whether you think that she's mentally, unstable or not, which I'm sure she is. She definitely is. They talk about this in the trial, and we'll get into that. But I mean, it just, who does this? Who has a boyfriend that they supposedly care about, and love, and that convinces them to go ahead and kill themselves? Like, who does this?
I don't know. This was a first of its kind.
Yeah, it is.
First one for
So
the books.
So prior to the day of this tragedy, Conrad had psychological and suicidal thoughts, which he'd been having for quite some time. He had tried to commit suicide once before. I actually think there was a second attempt before this. I think there was two attempts, to be honest. But by all accounts, Conrad was a tormented soul. He suffered from depression, and it has been stated he was mentally and physically abused. It has been written he was physically abused by his father and verbally abused by his grandfather. Yet after his parents' divorce, he had a hard time dealing with the breakup of the family. Um, his family didn't do. His family has not talked a whole lot,
No,
hers hasn't either, to be honest. But
no.
they did the one movie, the HBO special,
Mhm.
I love you to death, I love you to death, now die. But I don't know. It's such an odd thing because, he knew he had problems, and he himself felt the world would be better off without him. And although he loved his mother and his sisters, like, totally a lot, more than anything, he felt that he had no way out of the misery he lived on a daily basis, and he was suffering, and he wanted to end it all, and felt suicide was the best solution.
As his depression took hold of his mind, body, and soul, the one person who was the constant in his life was his girlfriend, Michelle Carter. We explained to you last week that she and Conrad had that strange relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
why did she keep calling him or texting him and
I don't
encouraging
know.
him? It was a crazy, it was inconsistent. The only thing
It
that was
was.
consistent was the texting. That was the only thing
Yeah.
consistent.
Well, and the thing that I don't understand is the mom knew. The mom knew that he had these thoughts, that he had tried already, and then when you hear her talk in interviews that she's done, she's like, I didn't know that he was still feeling that way. How did you not know that your son was struggling like this? Like, I understand if he's never tried before, or you've never had any issues with him, but if he is struggling this much, and he has already tried one, maybe two times, and it's been failed, you should be really getting him some help. You should be on top of him all the time, not like smothering him, but checking in, making sure, finding out what's going on with you, son. How are you today? I just feel like his mom failed him in some ways, like, I, I, I don't
Well, as
know.
a mother, I would be questioning the relationship. I
The
mean, you say
relationship.
you're in love, you say that she's the love of your life. She's telling people you're the love of her life, son, but
We've never seen
you don't see her.
her.
You met her once on vacation. You saw her 5 times in 2 years. What's the deal here?
Yeah.
Why? How come you don't invite her over for the weekend? Why don't you go there for the weekend? Again, they both had access to cars. They drove.
Yeah.
Or their
Yeah.
parents could have driven them. Didn't we drive our children all over the place?
I do still.
Right, of
So,
course.
um, so Conrad Roy was born on September 12th of 1995. He's just 1 year younger than my oldest daughter. So he was the firstborn of three children and the only son of Lynn and Conrad Jr. He was a smart boy. He made good grades in school. He was athletic, and he was a lover of baseball. He played baseball throughout his life, and he excelled in high school, and he even received a full ride scholarship to Fitchburg State University. He decided not to go to college at the time and decided to continue to work in his father's family's business, which is interesting to me considering that, it's saying that they were abusive. So I don't know. But by all means, this is a boy who seems to have it all. But he had social anxiety, and mixed in with depression and the mental anguish he was experiencing, that took hold of him. His mother knew and was aware of his struggles. Like I said, she was a nurse. She had sought help for Conrad at the beginning of his personality decline, but he was put on medication to help him. But the divorce of his parents in 2011 sent him in another downward spiral, and she should have known that. Being a nurse, being involved in this way, she should have known. And he loved his mothers and his sisters and never wanted to cause them any heartache or disappointment. And he was always concerned about their feelings and what they would be going through if he were alive or if he was dead. And, in my opinion, he was a lost soul. He was always concerned for his mom, his siblings, and they're truly who he loved. But, he just didn't feel like the world was for him. And I feel like he was just so tortured inside. And I can't, I struggle with my own mental health issues. I have attempted suicide before, and I've talked about this before, of that when I tried, I didn't really want to commit suicide. It wasn't like I didn't want to go on living. I just wanted the world to stop. Like, I was tired. I didn't want to argue with people anymore. I didn't want to live a life I was living anymore. I was very sad. I was, my mom was gone. My grandmother was gone. Those are the two most important people in my lives besides my husband and my children. I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. And I never have. He left when I was 6, and we've had a very troubled relationship since then. In fact, I don't talk to him now. So I understand what this guy was going through, and I remember thinking that in high school, like, Jesus, if I could I don't want to do this anymore. But I didn't get to this point until I was, a mom of 3 kids, and just thinking about how I was failing my children, so, but it's, I don't know, this poor guy. I just can't imagine as a teenager what's going on in this poor kid's head, and he feels such a sense of responsibility for those around him.
Well, because he knew his mother loved him and that she was such a good woman. And it sounded like there was a lot going on in that marriage with his dad, between his parents. And right. I'm not sure where the abuse came in, verbally or mentally or physically. Was it all of his life? Is that why she decided to end the marriage and leave them, leave it and get a divorce? Right. There's not much. I try to research it, but there's really not much of a time frame on it at all. Nope. Just that the siblings and their mom were just so very, very close, as well as with his grandparents.
They seem very sweet.
Yeah, and he took his sisters out for ice cream the day he was going to do this. It was as if he wanted to spend
the last moments with them. Yeah.
That's tough.
And I it's not like I think this mom's a bad mom or anything like that. I just feel like, I don't know, if it had been me and it had been my child, and I knew that he was already struggling, and then I knew that the divorce was really taking a toll on him, I would have been very concerned, and I would have been, contacting, psychiatrists and making sure that he was taking his medications and checking in, and, letting the school know what was going on with him, and so that they could let me know if something was happening at school.
Well,
I would have been checking in with this girl. I would have been like, no, I want to meet her. I want her over here. I want to know who she is. I want to know what impact she's having on your life, because, and I'm that way anyway. I don't let my kids just go out with anybody or anywhere. I want to know who they're with, and who they're talking to. My daughter, just the other day, she has a lot of online friends, and one of the online friends was going to come up here, and she wanted to meet her, out in public and everything. And my husband and I were like, no, we don't know her. We don't know, something bad could happen to you. She could be, a sex trafficking ring. We don't know. You've never met her in person. No. If we're going to do it, it's not going to happen today. We can go and meet her, and I can meet her, and daddy can meet her. But, I wouldn't just have let her have this relationship with a, or let her have a relationship with a boy that I don't know.
Of course. You need
even
to
if it
know
was
at all times who your children's friends are.
right, and
And
even if
that's
it was
why even when my kids were growing up, and they're
Mhm,
adults now,
right.
when they were little, we were always here. I knew the circle of friends. They were a close-knit
Hmm.
circle.
That's
We
right.
always knew where they
Yeah.
were at all
Or what
times.
they were
And
doing.
someone said to me, always have the parties at your house because at least you know your kids are, you know where they are. And yeah,
Yes,
we did.
yes,
It's true.
and I always had a very open communication with my kids, like always try checking on them. I even saved my daughter from bullying because of that, and I've talked about that before on the show too, of the situation of internet bullying, and a girl that, by all accounts, my daughter, if my daughter had shown up to where she was supposedly going, my daughter probably wouldn't be here with us today because she's
Oh,
so tiny, and there was a whole slew of people that wanted to jump her from this thing that this other girl had pretended was Sarah and was not her. So it was
oh,
terrible.
that's
And it
terrible.
was only by the fact that I was checking in on her that on her Facebook page and things, that I saw this message from this other girl and was like, "What are you talking about?" And we went through the whole thing, and it was, but if you're not in tune with your kids, if you're not you're not doing your job as a parent. You got to take care of them. I used to
Especially
tell my
today.
kids that I would rather you hate me and you be alive than you like me and be dead. So I'm not your parent, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent. Now, as an adult, I'm very friendly with my kids now. They're I would consider my daughters my best friends, but when they were growing up, I was a mom first and their friend second.
Right, right. It's you're
So,
supposed to. You have to set boundaries.
right.
They
But
can't.
and Michelle is just as messed up. So
Well, let me explain to you about Michelle. Michelle Carter was born on August 11th, 1996. Her parents, Gail and David Carter, seemed to be a loving couple who had a relatively normal life. They had a nice home, cars, jobs. They seemed like decent people by all accounts. Even there's not much on them, but I looked at the pictures from, the court, and they looked normal. They didn't have
Mhm.
three horns coming out of their heads. They looked like you and I. They were normal
Right,
people. Um,
right.
the Carters had they had their share of trouble with
Mhm.
Michelle.
Mhm.
She was a pretty girl, and she too had her share of mental and psychological problems. And
Mhm.
she developed an eating disorder at the age of 8 or 9 years old. What's with this eating disorder and these girls getting themselves into trouble? This is the
Well,
second one.
I just think that there's such a pressure on them nowadays to be thin, to be this, to be that, and it's everywhere now. When we were young, and I know Stella, you're a little older than I am, but I think we're in that
A
same
lot
kind of
older.
age. No, I don't think you're that much older than me as you think. You are not that much older than I am. I mean, but I think about, like, we had like teen magazines and things like that, and we could see girls on TV, but it wasn't in our face every day like it is now. There's
No,
social media, and there's these girls, and they're putting on filters and looking all beautiful, and if you're not measuring up to that in your mind, I mean, and these little girls from like very little on, from just tykes, are this kind of like society, like, looking at them and telling them what they should look like and act like and be like, and I just, it seems to me that that's a big problem right now, the
but the
eating
difference
disorders.
between the people that they emulate
Hmm.
now from the
Hmm.
people that we emulated back in the day.
Very different.
Marilyn, they were buxton, they were beautiful, they were
Hmm.
tall, they had curves. Women with
Yes.
curves was a beautiful
Hmm.
thing. It was not
Yes.
anything to be ashamed of. There were
Hmm. Hmm.
they didn't consider it plus size. They were normal size then.
Nice. Hmm.
Now, if you're over a size 10, you're considered
Hmm.
plus size.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that wasn't.
And I
And
struggled with that as I came into, I when I hit my height of depression, I moved to Kentucky, um 15 years ago now. And I went from being 100 pounds to 197 pounds overnight. Like, literally. I mean, there was no in between. I have size zeros in my closet up to like four, and then I have like 12s to 14s, and nowhere in between. I don't have 6s and 8s and things like that. I just went over. And so I struggled really hard with that because I had always been tiny my whole life, and but I, as a teenager or even as a young girl, the pressure that is put on these girls now, not just by themselves, but by their peer group, is just outrageous. And I just feel like like I said, it's constantly in their face.
Well,
Um,
I'm a stress eater, so there's no way
right,
I'm going to go throw up. I'm going to eat the
right,
steak, and not really desserts, but I'll kill you. I'll
right.
beat you up for steak. Don't
Oh
touch the
God, yeah.
steak.
Don't touch the steak.
And
Right,
I want the potatoes. I want everything with it. So
right.
I was never raised. I mean, food was nurturing to
Hmm.
us in my
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Oh, come on, you don't feel good? Here, eat. My mother would
Right. Comfort food.
always
Comfort
have
food.
comfort food, bologna
Yeah.
sandwiches, whatever we ate. I mean,
Right.
so the thought of not eating when
Yeah.
I'm nervous or anxious, I have to
Right.
eat. I'm not going to starve myself. I wish I could, but I can't.
Right. Well,
I
then
can't.
it was mentioned that she was, she started cutting herself and she suffered from depression. And that's always been one thing that I've really struggled with understanding is the cutting. I know what it's for. Like I've had people explain it to me and what they're feeling and why they do it, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No.
Um, I've never understood that because I'm already in enough pain as it is that I can't imagine inflicting more on myself. Like, I don't know. I, I've never understood the cutting thing, and it's not that I'm insensitive to it. I totally understand it's a thing. I just don't get what they're getting from it. I don't understand the gratification or how it's helping them in some way. I guess it's like if they can feel the physical pain, they don't feel the mental pain, but it's really hard. That's one thing I've always struggled to understand in that the psychological industry. Like that's one thing I don't get. I don't get cutting yourself.
But
You
most of
know.
the time, like the cases that I have heard, and I do have
Mhm.
some friends and acquaintances
Mhm.
when their daughters were away at college, they had to go
Mhm.
get them because the daughter developed the eating disorder. She was,
Mhm.
what's it, bulimic when you
Yeah. That's when
bring it up.
you've heard. Yes.
And then
Mhm.
she started cutting herself too. So like, what is that about? And
I
it was an epidemic at the school.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand, and I just don't get it. I don't understand. I could never have cut myself. Like,
No,
um,
I don't want to.
um, hold on. I'm sorry. Just one second. I'm gonna mute for a second. Stella, if you want to continue on talking about her, my husband's picking up dinner. So,
Tell him, does he come to New Jersey? Well, she had her eating disorder and she was psychologically very, very screwed up from a young age. They had her on psychotic medications by the time she was 14 years old. She kept playing the poor me, nobody loves me or wants me card to her friends. And people were fed up with her even while she was growing up and becoming a tween. Her friends would just stay away from her. And she would be asking them, well, don't you think I'm pretty? Don't you think I'm beautiful? And they would say, yeah, you're so pretty. Yes, you're so beautiful. Why do you keep asking us that? She says, well, if I'm so beautiful and I'm so pretty, how come I don't get invited anywhere? And how come the pretty girl is always home on Friday night crying and alone and nobody wants to invite me to their parties? So for some reason, she had this problem
Mhm.
connecting, or
Yes.
I think when she did connect, she destroyed her relationships
Well, I see.
because
I
she was off,
Yeah. Well, I think she's got very
needy,
sociopathic tendencies. Like,
and she's
uh,
needy.
yeah, she doesn't have feelings and connections. She can't connect, and that's what sociopaths can't do. They can't connect. They mask it with things very well, most of them, but they can't. They don't have real feelings. They don't make connections. So because they don't understand those feelings, and I think that's something that she was struggling, and she was very attention seeking. I mean, extremely attention seeking.
Yes,
Um, and she kind of used these tales of like gloom and doom to get people to listen or respond to
absolutely,
her
absolutely.
and she felt the need to be told that, like, how pretty she was, how this, how that, so she's just I don't
Oh, you're the greatest thing since Cracker Jacks? Like,
right, right.
really?
And it was
Oh,
always about her, like always
always,
about her. She
always.
never asked how her friends were.
No.
And I've seen the text messages beyond the text messages with him. In fact, we have it in our Patreon account. We have all the text messages that were pulled from her phone and his phone. So between her and his friends, her and her friends, him and his friends, him and her, so I mean, it was just, yeah. So, and these text messages, we're going to go through a couple of them coming up here, but oh my God, it's just constantly, she was always about her. And she always wanted to be portrayed in a positive way. And her so-called friends only put up with her because they knew she was troubled and an attention seeker. So, and there's even conversations like that they had, stating, I don't really want to invite her, but if I don't, I feel like she's going to be all upset and she's
She's
going to,
gonna harm herself or harm someone
yeah,
else,
yeah,
or
yeah.
or she would constantly bother them and pester them
Mhm.
if she knew a
Yeah,
party was going on.
right.
And so they're like, why don't we just bring her along this way? We can have a good time and we won't be bothered by her, because it sounded like they were like hiding on her and shutting the
Yeah,
lights if they saw her coming down the street. Pretend,
yeah,
duh, she's not here. Pretend we're not
right.
here. That was the
Mom, say I'm not
impression.
here. Mom,
Yeah,
say I'm
so
not
just tell her we're
here.
not here. That was the
Tell them we're not here.
impression that I got as I was
Yeah.
researching this. I mean,
Yes.
come on
Yes.
now. Why didn't her parents realize that she had a
I don't,
problem?
I don't know. Her parents they're very strange.
Uh,
I don't
they
know.
didn't appear to be. They spoke very sensibly.
Strange as far as not like recognizing anything in their daughter. Like they did not think anything was wrong with her. They thought she was fine and that she just needed some help mentally, just a little bit. But your daughter's cutting herself. She's got an eating disorder. She's suffering from depression and she's not making connections and she doesn't have any good friends and her boyfriend's far, far away. And you don't want to know about that guy either. Like what impact is he having on your already, kind of messed up daughter? Like, I don't know. But it's basically like, two really disturbed teens colliding in this. And so when they meet, whoever would have thought that besides living 35 miles apart in the same state, would they both have mental illnesses in common? And these two suffered from psychological torment, social anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and self harm. They were their own worst enemies, but together
Mhm.
their worlds collided into a major disaster that I guess no one saw coming, but I feel like it was no one saw coming because they just weren't paying attention enough. And the days leading up to Conrad's suicide, he was beginning to hit rock bottom. He was a desperate boy who was about to take desperate measures. And starting on July 11th, this is what the text exchange between Michelle Carter and Conrad looked like. Before we get started with the text, I just want to warn you they are kind of upsetting. It's not graphic or anything, but they're upsetting. So
Okay.
the text will break down for you where, according to CNN, the text we will break down for you were according to CNN, although I've also had them. I pulled them myself and got them from records. And almost every media outlet has stated the same. So here we go.
Okay. On July 11th, several days before the incident happened,
Mm-hmm.
Conrad and Michelle were on the phone, on texting, not
Mm-hmm.
even talking.
Right.
What's better to use for a suicide death inside of Conrad's pickup? A generator or a water pump? And these were the texts that were obtained, as we said, by CNN. And she answered him, well, in my opinion, I think you should do the generator because I don't know much about the pump. And with the generator, you can't fail. You can't fail.
You can't fail. You can't fail killing
You
yourself. You can't
can't
fail.
fail killing yourself.
So July 11th into the early morning hours of July 12th, she stated, or he stated, I'm sorry, I'm just too sensitive, he said. And I want my family to know there was nothing they could do. I am entrapped in my own thoughts. And then she texted back that she thought that I think your parents know you're in a really bad place.
And he said, she said, I'm not saying they want you to do it, but I honestly feel they will be able to accept it. They know there's nothing they can do. They've tried helping you. Everyone's tried, but there's a point that comes where there isn't anything anyone can do to save you, not even yourself. And you've hit that point, and I think your parents know you've hit that point. You said your mom saw a suicide thing on your computer and that she didn't say anything. I think she knows it's on your mind and she's prepared for it.
That like even enlisting his mom in this, like and his family, and saying that they'll be fine, they'll understand, they'll accept it, they'll be fine, um as we get into this further, she eventually even says that she'll be there for his family and she'll be comforting to them, and but it's like, this is what she's doing instead of calling his mom or texting his mom or calling the police or reaching out to a friend and saying, hey, my boyfriend is talking about committing suicide and I'm really concerned and I don't know what to do and I really need to get him some help, but I don't know. But so she goes on to insist everyone will be sad for a while, but they will get over it and move on. They won't be in depression. I won't let that happen. They know how sad you are and they know that you're doing this to be happy. And I think they will understand and accept it. They'll always carry you in their hearts.
He then asked her to please be there for his family. And then he started to express doubts. Mm-hmm. And he told her he was freaking out and overthinking taking his life.
And she texts back. And she's like, I thought you wanted to do this. The time is right and you're ready. You just need to do it. You can't keep living this way. You just need to do it like you did that last time and not think about it and just do it, babe. You can't keep doing this every day. And I think when I went through the first time and looked at these text messages and I was reading it, I cannot begin to express to you how many times she says the phrase, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And if you're hearing that over and over and over again, it goes into your brain and it stays there, and then
she's
you think,
brainwashing him.
I'm disappointing her if I don't do it. I'm hurting her and I love her and I don't want her to be sad. And I'm making her sad every day. And I'm making my mom sad. I'm making my sisters sad. And it's just, it's awful. So, he even then began to express concern about his family again.
Mm-hmm. And she wrote to him, I told you I'll take care of them. Everyone will take care of them to make sure they won't be alone and people will help them get through it. We talked about this. They will be okay and accept it. People who commit suicide don't think this much and they just do it.
Do it. There it is again. Just do it. Just do it. People who commit suicide don't think this much. Yeah, because they're really truly wanting to do it at that point. He is not wanting to do it. He is crying out. He is crying out for help. He needed help. And this girl was not it. So now we're on to July 12th. And at 9:03 a.m., she texts him, are you awake? And he replied affirmatively. And she's then asked him, are you going to do it today? And he said yes, before they discussed what time would be best.
And then he continued to express his misery and doubts, texting her, I don't know. I don't understand why I'm like this. And sometimes things happen and we never have the answers, is her advice.
She came back with, right?
She came back with that advice.
Never once in here does she say, if you're not sure about this, babe, let's talk about other options. Let's go see what we can do for you. Have you tried going and talking to your counselor again? Did you tell your mom? Nothing, nowhere in here. But instead, he says he was hesitant, to which Carter responded, you're so hesitant because you keep overthinking it and pushing it off. You just need to do it, Conrad. The more you push it off, the more it will eat at you. And then he replied, you're right.
And he went on to insist, if you Or she went on to insist, if you want it as bad as you say you do, it's time. Today is the day. It's time to do it.
Do it. To
Do
do
it.
it. Over.
Do it.
Do it.
Over
Do it.
and over. Do
Yep.
it. Just do it.
Over and over. So then he thanked her for being there for him. She responded, I would never leave you. You're the love of my life, my boyfriend. You're my heart. I'd never leave you. Okay, but you are going to be leaving him. If he leaves this world, he's gone. That's it. There is no more. There's nothing else there. Like,
I would love to know what the time span of these texts were.
Well, I mean,
okay,
okay, so that's
35 miles. She could have gotten to him. She could have been like
right.
his
Well,
superwoman.
okay,
She could
so
have
I
rescued
mean, we're
him.
looking at right. That's what Christina just said. So okay, so we started off at 9:03 this morning. We're up to 9:45, and then so then she says, so at some point in that day, then Conrad tells her he would do it eventually, and she says, I really don't know what he says, he said, I really don't know what I'm waiting for. But I have everything lined up. And so she said, no, you're not, Conrad. Last night was it. You kept pushing it off and you say you'll do it, but you never do. It's always going to be that way if you don't take action. You're just making it harder on yourself by pushing it off. You just have to do it.
And then she continued to send the following texts.
Right.
And you can say you'll do it tomorrow, but you probably won't. You just need to do it, Conrad, or I'm going to get you help. You can't keep doing this every day. Roy told her
that's a threat. Like, okay, the threat here is I'm going to get you help. Either kill yourself or I'm going to get you help. Like, what is going on in this girl's brain? I just don't get it. You just need to do it, Conrad, or I'm going to get you help. You can't keep doing this. It just, and then Roy told her he would do it. And Carter asked, do you promise? And he said he promised. And she said, and you can't break a promise. And you just go in a quiet parking lot or something. So by 5 o'clock, she texts him again. And she says, are you going to do it now? And he tells her he was stressing out. And she says, well, you're fine. It's going to be okay. You just got to do it, babe. You can't think about it.
And at 6:19 p.m., are you ready? You're going to do it now? And he said he was leaving the house. And he left his house.
So at 6:28, he calls her and they spoke for almost 43 minutes. I would love to know what they said in that conversation. I can't even imagine what she said to him at this point in time. But at 7:12 p.m., according to call logs, they spoke for another 47 minutes, and that was the last phone call that he ever made. Carter would later text a friend and tell her Roy had told her he had doubts and was getting out of the car, but she told him to get back in. So she is on the line with him.
She's listening to him struggling, having a hard time breathing. He's breathing in his fumes. And she's telling him to get back in the car. At that moment, she should have ended the text and called for help. Right. She should have dialed 911.
And that's where it takes a turn from being just a girlfriend who's very, controlling and not helpful and, kind of disgusting, to this part of she really actively convinced him to do this right there. That until that point, everything else was just, oh, just do it for on and on and on and on. But when
she encouraged him to go ahead and kill himself, instead of talking him out of it, she talked him into it.
Right. Get back in the car. Get back in the car.
And she didn't call for help. She didn't dial 911. She taunted him to take his life.
And people say, well, there's no proof that she actually told him to get back in the car. But I'm sorry, there's some things that she might have said that I can accept as chalking up to, I don't know if she said things like that, who knows? She's just a troubled kid. This one, no, she told him on the phone, and she told her friend in a text.
Oh, she told her friend
back in the court. Right. And so there's no actual proof that she 100% told him this, but in her own words, she said she did. And this is the one time that I really do believe that she wasn't just saying, I think that was her sympathy. I told him to get back in the car. Oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking.
Because then she started to feel guilty. I could have helped him, but I didn't. And that's when her friends.
Yeah.
Because she started to tell her friends days before this happened
Yeah.
Oh, Conrad's missing. They're looking for him. They don't know where he is. He's been so depressed. They're afraid
Yeah.
he killed himself. So she started to build
Mhm.
this
She
saga up.
she even talked to his mom. She
Right.
talked to his mom. His mom called and she said, "No, I don't know where he is. I don't know. I'm very worried about him. I don't know."
Mhm.
So on July 13, his body was found inside the truck of the Kmart parking lot. This girl not only encouraged him to do something, bad, she encouraged him to kill himself. This isn't like go rob a bank for me or go, steal this purse for me. This is kill yourself.
And
I
imagine
don't know.
if it weren't for a savvy police officer who
Yeah.
took his phone, they would
Yeah.
have never known.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
don't know. Mm.
he knew he was onto something
This
because
goes beyond anything that I can explain in
the
any type
scope
of
of
case.
any relationship.
Yeah, no,
It's
any
the
case that we've
first.
talked about, nothing.
Yeah.
This is, you talk about, I think about assisted suicide at the end of life and how we view that. And these are people that are, 80, 90 years old that are done and tired and would like to move on, and we don't even want to accept the fact that, that they are asking for assisted suicide,
Right.
basically of let me pass, please let me pass. But here are these two kids with all the life ahead of them, scholarships, promising
Oh,
futures, and here is what is happening. And she essentially, I don't think she just assisted in his suicide. I think she
it
was a
wasn't considered.
facilitator.
She was right. She was
She
the
was a
encouragement.
facilitator. I don't
And
think
she
that he
taunted him. She was
Yeah.
bullying him to do it.
Right. I don't think that he was actually going to do it until this girl came along. I think he would have eventually gotten the help he needed. I think he would have made it through. But when you have someone encouraging you to do something like this constantly, and I mean, you heard us in just the small amount of text we have here of how many times she said, just do it. I'm telling you, it was hundreds of times
Hundreds.
that she said that exact phrase to him over the course of the relationship. And it doesn't seem like the relationship started off in a good place and they were all happy and lovey and oh, sweetie and all that. No, it started out this way. He was troubled. She was troubled. She began almost immediately convincing him to take his life.
Well, I
And
think
then
she
to
was
put,
mind fucking him, excuse my language,
oh,
but I think
absolutely.
she was playing head games with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It
I
just,
mean,
I and so Wiley Doodle says
Wiley's
she,
good. I love Wiley's
yeah, I do
questions.
too. She wanted to become the grieving girlfriend and get all the
Mhm.
attention. She had even
Mhm.
attended his wake and funeral and wanted to take a few of his belongings from his room. She guilted him into it so many ways of, you're upsetting me, you're upsetting your family, you can't live like this, just do it, over and over and over and over again, and that's abusive. That's another form of abuse.
And Wiley Doodle, she lied about asking that his mother wanted to give him things. She never
Right.
went to the house. She wasn't welcomed there.
Hmm.
And the mother did not give any of his
No,
belongings
she
to
just
her.
wanted them. She
She,
wanted to take
but she
things.
told her friends, "Oh, I'm going to go help
Hmm.
Mrs. Roy clean out Conrad's room. She wants me to be there with her because it's too
Hmm.
painful." She wanted to be this heroine
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end after it's over, but she was not. The mother made it clear she was not invited to come
Mm-mm.
and help with
Mm-mm.
anything, with
Anything. No.
anything.
No.
And that's, but what she told her friends was a whole other story.
Oh
Pretty
yeah, no. What she held her friends was a crock of shit.
crock of shit, totally
And
crock of shit.
we're gonna get into that next week. We'll be discussing the aftermath of the suicide, her text messages to her friends, and the trial that would ultimately change the rules on how we view innocent correspondence via text. Um, this case has set precedent. This was the first of its kind. We'd never seen anything like this before. It was at the beginning of trying to figure out what cyberbullying and internet stalking and those kind of things really were. We really didn't have laws. And I remember thinking that, like, the thing with my daughter happened. We called the police, and the police officer came out and he said, "I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I don't really have a jurisdiction over this. There's not a whole lot I can do because it's internet and it's cyber, and so the people who handle that is the FBI, and
Right.
laws have not caught up." He said, "What I can do is go over and scare the shit out of this girl and tell her that you can press charges and blah blah blah." And he's like, "And it'll scare her, I'm sure, but." He said, and generally these types of people are very cowardly. They're not, they're going to be very upset if a police officer shows up at their door and says this stuff to them,
Oh, we used to
because
threaten the kids with that.
otherwise they wouldn't be doing these things. If they were
Right.
just, normal kids, they wouldn't be doing this. This is, they're usually cowardly, and they get some sort of like trip off of doing this, but when they're confronted in person, it's a whole nother thing, and bullies are like that a lot of internet bullies. We've with the age of internet, the bullying situation has changed. When we were young, bullying ended at the end of the day at school, if
With a
that,
punch in the face.
right, or writing some shit on a
Right.
bathroom wall,
Yeah, on the
for a
bathroom
good
wall.
time, call Kelly,
Right.
like, and but then you went home and you got away from it
Right.
all.
It
You
was
could go
over.
home, and if you had a decent home life, which hopefully you did, you could go home and you would be surrounded with love and happiness in your home, and then it would be, there was somewhere to get away with it.
Oh,
But
and I was
now
bullied. My mother would
it's
threaten the kids on the street. I'm going to have you barred from
right.
the street.
Now it's all right here, and we carry it with us
Carry it with.
all day long. All day long. It's with us when we go to sleep. It's the last thing we look at when we go to sleep. It's the first thing we look up when we get
But it
when
doesn't
we
go
wake up
away
in the
if
morning.
you erase it.
And it doesn't go away.
It doesn't
Mm-mm.
go away.
I can scratch out a
Yeah.
magic marker on a bathroom wall. You cannot magic marker a post on the internet, and that's one of the things I always try to express to my children, like, even if you're sharing things or you're doing things or whatever, just because you delete something off your Facebook doesn't mean it goes away. It doesn't. It's out there
No,
forever and ever and
it's
ever.
forensics.
Yep.
That's
And if you search
forensics.
it really hard enough, if you're really good at searching things, they'll find it, out there in some weird place, but um so you know
I would love to hear
God.
their thoughts. What are your thoughts, audience? What do you think
Yeah, I'd
about
love to hear what you
does it
guys.
disturb you? Especially, there's quite a few of you that have children
Mhm.
or nieces and nephews that are
Right.
college aged. What's your thoughts? How would you, I don't
What
know.
would you guys do in this situation? What would your responsive have been to prevent this? Would you have thought it was strange that they were in this relationship where they never saw each other and lived so close to each other? I mean, I can understand if there was two, 100 miles between them and they're just having an online thing, okay, but they literally lived like right there.
Well, I also think like sometimes these families think we have this perfect family and
Mhm.
everything is pink and rose colored.
Mhm. Right.
I'm so in tune with my nieces and my nephew
Right.
that they'll pick up a phone and they're in their 20s. They're finished with college.
Mhm.
They're getting their careers on track.
Yeah.
My nephew, they will call me. My daughters will call my sister-in-law.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
I don't know. If something is bothering me, I'll pick up the phone and call one of my friends and say, "Can you help me out? Can maybe
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
she just seems
No, I do it all the time. I
but
do the
it's
same thing.
not bad to do that.
No,
It's
I do it all the
sometimes
time,
they
but
don't wanna get you nervous or scared as a
right,
mother because you have so
right,
much on your plate.
right. I call Tori all the time and say, "Hey, you know what? This is what I'm dealing with the girls. This is what I said. Was I wrong? Was I okay? What would you do?" Because I mean, we have kids that are relatively in the same age groups. A
Right.
lot of my friends do, and so the same thing. Like I call my best friend from high school, and we talk about our kids and what's going on with them. And my sister did the same thing. This is my best friend. It's not like blood related sister, but we
But
consider each other
still, we're all
family. And
sisters.
she calls me all the time and she's like, "Hey, so Emma's doing this, or Hannah's doing that, or so and so is doing this, or da, da." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," and we talk about it, we talk it out, and we're very concerned. But in this case, a lot of people tried to say, "Oh, well, you're taking it out of context, or it was innocent, or she didn't know what she was doing." And I'm sorry, no, no,
Bullshit.
no. I have no sympathy for this girl
Either.
at all. I
No.
have no sympathy for her. The only thing I can say is that I do believe that she was very mentally troubled and she should have gotten help. That's it. That's the only thing I can say. Obviously, she was not in a good state of mind. Obviously, she's very troubled, but I don't think this is the end of what we're going to hear about
She
this
was
girl.
using him as her pawn so she could get sympathy from her own friends.
Right. I think it's going to happen again with her. I don't know what's going to happen, but I definitely do. I think something bad is going to happen again with her, because the little amount of time that she did, and the little sentence that she got, and then she went back and asked for, reducing that, and I don't feel like it got through to
She
her.
wasn't allowed to be on social media, but her mother was posting happy pictures, Disney World, prom, friends, parties. All of a sudden, now she's got all these friends and she's invited all over the place.
Yeah.
At what cost?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Well, we'll be back next week. Don't forget to catch Stella tomorrow. What case are you going to talk about tomorrow, Stella?
I have 2 of them that I'm kind of working on. Can I surprise everyone?
Yeah, but you got to let me know so I can post some things.
Okay. It's going to be Timothy Wiltsey.
She's like, all right, I'll tell you.
But
anyway, yeah. So she'll be back tomorrow night with Lipstick, Lashes, and Lies. And then I obviously will be here on Wednesday with our true crime tidbit. And then, join us back on Friday where Brandy and I will be talking about the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. So
he scares me.
Oh my God. Out of all the serial killers, he's probably the one that scared me the most because it was right in my backyard. And I was a little kid when it was. Yeah, I was 10.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
I was 10 when it was happening. And I was petrified to go to sleep at night. And I had a tree that was right outside my window, and it would scrape my window all the time. And I got up in the middle of the night and I was screaming at my mom. I was like, tomorrow you have to cut all the branches off. I can't take it anymore. Because I was scared. I thought he was going to come through my window.
The worst I have is a peeping Tom.
Anyway,
we had a panty snatcher also in the neighborhood.
Well, thanks so much for tuning in, Dishing True Crime with the Good Wives and Murder Fine. Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get exclusive mini episodes, inside documents, and pictures from the case, live YouTube discussions, our exclusive discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch. And there's new stuff. Remember, I told you that. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at True Crime Wives. And for more inside information, check out our podcast that will be coming back for season 3 at the very end of February or beginning of March at The Good Wives Guide to True Crime. You can also check out our missing persons second podcast that we have, Gone Cold, on any of your favorite podcast players. So have a good one from The Good Wives, serving up true crime. Dish at a time. Bye.
Bye. Good night.